Good evening, and thank you for giving me your ears at autisticradio.com. We're all sitting in our comfortable spaces, waiting to talk to each other, waiting to have an authentic conversation. In recent weeks, we've been discussing employability, advocacy, Autscape, the organisation that runs a festival and conference for autistic people, why we've chosen to create radio programs, and why we think it's suitable for autistic people. Tonight, we'll be discussing sleep, and Harry will be leading a conversation about that. In the future, we have programs planned. Liz is bringing forward a project that she has, a bit hush-hush at the moment. We have a presentation that we're making as a model for engaging and using our voices and using audio recordings to present to professional meetings. And we also have a future podcast to be making about a new way of creating a questionnaire that leads people to their autism diagnosis without using the negative terms and using positive versions of autism to define it.
Evening, Julian. The subject for this evening is a very interesting one, and one that may affect us all. Certainly affects me. It's about sleep and autism. The reason that I've raised it is, in my own experience, it's about the racing mind and not being able to settle down and how it affects my sleep pattern. So that's why I've thrown it in there.
It's something I've experienced a lot. So before we get on to the show, what's happening with the Facebook page?
Well, the Facebook, right. I'm adding things from things all over the world, the English-speaking world, of course. Firstly, which is good, it does automatically, and which we do know is when we're live doing the Spectrum Voices conversation or being in Podbean for anything, there's always a link that comes on right away. There's a post that I put on from the Activistic Autistic.
Could you say that one again? What does that mean?
Activistic Autistic. It's like a personal blog of a man
All right.
with autism. Basically, it's just a personal kind of experience thing, and he's got a picture where he's very happy because he's got a Cookie Monster and a Penguin board game in the same aisle. And the board game that he got is simple and not complicated, so it doesn't fry his mind, basically, and he can enjoy it a lot more. So it's just he's just kind of having a good day. So I thought it was something positive to put on.
Nice bit of fun.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing I like to see when I read a Facebook page. Something positive, you know?
That's what I was trying to do.
I think you achieved that beautifully.
And something positive that's within a person's own comfort zone rather than pushing to something that's going to impress other people more.
Yeah. And also he's doing it for himself. He's the person doing it. It's not a parent that's doing it. He's doing it.
Yeah. That's from what I've seen, yeah. It's his own decision, his own comforts, and that's what's good to see. So
there's the post to do with Liz.
A blog about being diagnosed at 35. And like many people with late diagnosis, it's a struggle to get into with the world, despite putting in a lot of effort. The masking before you discover the diagnosis, the masking afterwards, and just looking at ways to basically deal with life, different techniques, and it's basically a reflection.
I've put the whole of her blog, which is called Actually Autistic Adult, onto a page on our website. So if people go to the autisticradio.com site, they'll find her blog. It's very interesting.
Yes, it is. The next one was about meeting Alex Dratikis, the autistic traveller, and it's about self-discovery as he travels the world, finding himself and what it means to be human, understanding about autism, the needs to be neurodivergent individuals more generally while travelling. The Walgam photographer of Scottish Greek heritage.
And we've got a podcast coming up We've put his Autism Adventures blog onto our website. We've made a recording with him. We'll put that up as a podcast.
Yeah, recommended. One thing I've been looking to do for ages was the UK Health Radio. You know, when they do Evelyn, who does the autism sort of kind of program, it's reflecting on autism.
Autistic Voices on UK Health Radio, yeah.
UK Health Radio, yeah. Something that was posted in February. And it's a snippet of audio talk that she had with a woman called Donna Hudson, who's autistic and has ADHD, where she discovered while she was at university, and her struggles, and how she's now supporting other neurodivergent women in business.
I've listened to that podcast. I think it's interesting. She's now started putting her stuff up on Podbeam as well. You can zap the adverts.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. What else I put on was actually a blog from the website from Lizzie's actually autistic adult, and it's a note on functioning.
I'm looking at it at the moment. One of her older posts, and it's interesting. I'll just read a snippet because it might interest people to go and find it. It's on actuallyautisticadult.com. A note on functioning. There's considerable momentum in the autistic community to move away from functioning labels towards support level labels as an alternative. I think this is a conversation which is going to develop some exciting new language and definitions for the varying levels of ability and support needs which people on the spectrum have. So yeah, I think that's an interesting piece. It's something to find on her website.
I mean, the weird thing is, obviously, I read a bit of it before I put it on, of course, and it was all interesting, but just being put on the spot to try to remember it was actually the detail of it. I just couldn't do it. That's why I asked myself. Right.
Well, that's the thing. We're autistic, and being put on the spot is not normally how we go. You know, but we're all experimenting with this thing.
Yeah, true. Put on something from the National Autism Association. I think it's American.
Oh yeah, that really bugs me. That one.
Does it?
No, not the actual post. I think you're making a good choice. It's got a hashtag 20 years of hope.
Oh, right.
You know, that's a little thing I don't. They're in a different era there, aren't they? You know, they're still using us as an othered community.
Yeah,
you know, that's how the American charities are, though. You know.
Yeah, it's different culture.
Different culture.
So basically, it's talking about narrow focus, intent, fascination, or repetitive interest in a particular topic or object is seen as a deficit. In reality, these intense interests could hold enormous value for the individuals with autism, with potential to help build self-confidence, increase coping skills, and even launch their career. And I can totally identify with that. Although I don't have a career as such as in making money, I feel I've got a sort of career doing, say the committee stuff and all that I do.
Yep.
And that to me is like an intense sort of obsession that I've kind of got into over the years, particularly administration.
And people are very lucky to have you as the person who does those things. Often we autistic people are the people that get into something to such a degree that we make it work.
Yes, that is true. I mean, I've seen other autistic people do that. You can identify what they're doing. I've seen that in other people. Maybe not things that I'm interested in, but you can see what they're doing. The sort of the obsessive thing, the perfect, trying to perfect and make things make more sense in their head to get things to work more simply and seeing things that other people may not see.
So let's try and segue into the conversation we're going to have about sleep today by saying that I'm going to send a link through to post on Facebook from a doctor called Michael Mosley. He's very vocal and he's a presenter as much as he is a doctor sometimes and a researcher. He puts across some medical issues in a very clear way. And he has a podcast on BBC Sounds, which is available all the way around the world. I think it's called Just One Thing. And the one that's particularly interesting for today, he talks about sleep. Obviously, he's just talking from the whole population's point of view, and we're going to be talking about things from an autistic point of view. But I think some of the things that he says about how the brain and body reacts to sleep, and he talks about the hormones, and he talks about breathing and how breathing can change people's sleep patterns and make it easier for them to finally get a deep sleep. So we should put a link on that, and we'll put that up on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Anything that's useful to anyone.
What made you want to talk about sleep today?
The reason it's something I've been actually thinking about raising for a while. It's because of my own experience and routine, because of my lifestyle, because
Yep.
I'm a single man, don't have a family or anything, I don't have children. It's been over 20 years I've been doing this, been living my own for over 20 years. And it's like, I stay up very late, don't sleep much. If I try and go to sleep too early, I can't sleep because I'm always thinking about the days, weeks, and months ahead. And it seems like my mind can't settle. I think being on a computer a lot has a lot to do with it, to be honest. Because I do remember that, I don't get it now, but when I was first going on laptops quite a lot, there was this kind of blueness in the head.
The blue light.
The blue light thing. It didn't flash or anything, but it was just like, because you were staring at a screen for so long, it doesn't happen now. But the mind always keeps racing. Saying racing is a bit, it's not like, it's just like, it's hard to stop thinking and just ease. And the way that my sleep is now, and the way that I drink too much caffeine anyway, that doesn't help. Basically, the way that my life is now is, I don't sleep properly. I basically nap. And sometimes particularly as an Oxfam, when it was like I was there all day, I found it hard to do. I would find it hard to do a 9-to-5 job, even if it was just once a week, because I need to have a sort of sleep break in between during that day, even if it's just a couple of hours. And I'm just thinking, is that because the way my mind is, I wear myself out, too much overthinking, or is it just basically bad habit I've got into, and it's not specifically autistic? I don't know, but I just thought if other people kind of experienced that.
Yes, I think we'd all do, honestly. I think it's part of the autistic condition. Some kind of difficult relationship with sleep. For me, it goes right back to childhood. There was many times when I would be, a pre-teenager, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, and absolutely unable to fall asleep before midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. And if it wasn't for getting up for school, I don't know the end of that sentence.
Well, something made you make yourself settle down.
What, now or then?
Then.
I remember as a child it being a distress, in distress, I would go to my parents and say, look, I can't sleep, I'm in distress. And I wasn't in pain or anything, I just couldn't get my brain to stop going on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It didn't really become resolved until after adolescence, I suppose. But even when I was at a boarding school, and I would be the absolute last person asleep. I would be listening to everyone else's breathing, and possibly for a couple of hours, still thinking about things and working things out in my head. Is that the kind of thing?
Yeah, that's the thing I'm talking about. I'm always, sometimes it's, I don't want to say silly, it's not silly, but sometimes what keeps me awake is maybe a mistake I made as a 13-year-old. Like I said something wrong in a conversation, it was misunderstood, or I was cheeky to my mother and it caused a lot of upset, something like that. It's like minor things now. It feels minor, but it's like important enough to think about and annoy you.
Yes. Yeah. I get that exact same feeling, an overwhelming feeling of being exactly that 13-year-old and embarrassed and going through the whole thing and rethinking it again unnecessarily because I'm no longer 13. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Your brain goes off in the way that autistic brains do about all the different options and all the different ways of things. I think it is something that we all have you shouldn't say that, should you?
Well, I've always found spare moments during the day to do those going off things about the past. They don't keep me awake.
I think I was saying that's something I recognise from the past, and I would still recognise that now if I'm thinking about something or I'm worried about something. I'm not really. You see, that's the thing. You almost caught yourself then and say worrying about it and saying no, it's not really worry. It's like your brain's on an overdrive unnecessarily, isn't it? Does that make sense?
It's like it goes into self-reflection.
Yeah.
Every so often, not all the time. Thankfully, not all the time. Just like self-reflection, because it's like you're trying to not perfect yourself, but it's just a habit of thinking too much. Something, and it's usually a trigger of some kind, like a colour or something you've seen, or maybe a bit of music you remember from that time I was at school, or that time that something else happened, or a smell. It's quite strange how that can come about.
It's almost the symptoms of PTSD, but at a kind of low level, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
A constant level. Having said all this, I think in what do we call them, Western societies or modern society now, it's a general pattern that the population are having more difficulty or reporting more difficulty with sleep. And the world has changed. The lighting, everything is a 24-hour time. People don't get to switch off from work. They're sending emails from their phones all times of days and nights. So it might be that we are the canary in the coal mine on the way the world works,
Yeah, I guess. The way I look at it as well is because when I sleep during the day, because I'm tired, because I haven't slept good enough during the night, for whatever reason, once I'm up, I'm gonna go, I need to do something. I need to make the time that I'm up, awake, send emails or do social media stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's actually a very positive feeling once it's done, or even while doing it. It's like, well, I've not wasted my day. Because the sort of old-fashioned attitude is if you sleep during the day, you're wasting your life.
Right.
Which is not. You're just doing things differently.
Time shifting.
Time shifting. I mean, like my dad, for instance, he gets up. He's still working, so he gets up very early and goes to bed, fairly early as well, maybe 10:30, and he's up like sometimes 5 o'clock, 6 in the morning, and that's like mostly Monday to Friday. So that's the kind of what he's used to. So when people do things a bit differently, like sleeping during the day for a start, it's like you're wasting your life. You should be out there doing something. Even if you've not got anything on, go for a walk or watch the telly.
Yeah, if you're tired, you should sleep.
Yeah.
There is a lot of pressure to fit within the normal times, isn't there? Maybe we should allow ourselves to just find what suits us. A lot of autistic people report that they are much more likely to be comfortable in the later hours of night and less comfortable during the day. I don't know whether that's social. I find the quiet of night when everyone else in the house has gone to sleep or gone away, it's me time, and it's the downtime, the alone time that I need. And maybe to fit it in, the only way I can fit it in is to be up late at night.
Yeah, I can identify with that. And the other thing I can identify as well, we're talking about times, and like I went through a lot of stressful times about 10 years ago or whatever. And I didn't want to be around people. I still had to get things to do, like go to the shop for instance. This is before I discovered you can actually do it online. But forgetting that, it's just to go for fresh air as well. And I wish to go to the shop maybe just before it closed, back at 9 o'clock, and it was quieter, and especially when it was winter time, not a lot of people were about, so you felt safer and more assured.
It's down to whether it's a problem, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, I wasn't bringing the topic up as a problem anyway, except maybe a lack of sleep, but basically just a curiosity piece in a way, just to see if other people are affected, or am I thinking too much about thinking too much?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe if you're more positive and interested in thinking frame towards life, that you're keen on doing things, you're going to more often get focused into doing things a lot. It's just saying, because I think I've got enough life issues to restrain me from feeling that there's a sort of exuberant, positive, keen mood all the time, at least, or indeed any problematic proportion of the time. And I appreciate often calming down and settling to a restful or contemplative position. Later in the day, focused doing things very late certainly happens sometimes, but there's a now and again thing, just whenever something catches me and that catches my focus rather than the majority of days.
So what you're saying is, when you're really into something, it might lead you, because of hyperfocus, to just carry on into the early hours.
Yeah, this happens.
Yeah.
If it happens every so often, I'll be doing something till 1 or 2, I can't stop. But sometimes I might be doing it in bed.
Yeah. I think if you're living with an autistic person, that can sometimes cause people concern, especially if it's a child or if it's somebody you're caring for, that the hyper focus, the not being able to pull them away from whatever they're doing, usually a computer, I think nowadays, feels as though you should have the responsibility to say, hey, stop that and move on to something else. Whereas I think we would say, as autistic people, is probably just to let them go with that, let them go with that flow.
At least until you've finished what you're doing. You don't have folks tell you to stop a thing after a certain amount of time when it's unfinished. Just creating.
That creates that's going to create an argument between a parent and an adolescent autistic person, isn't it? If they're really into something, they need the leeway to make their own decisions in ways that parents or carers might be uncomfortable with. If you fight them, then that's more distress than if they go through the process. It's going to take them a lot longer to get to sleep if there's been a resistance. As a parent, I would say go with the flow with autistic kids.
Don't want to shock and an upset.
Yeah.
But evil.
That's a very good point, though, because that's exactly what I do. I mean, I've got this routine for one of the organisations I'm in. It's very local, the community flat's just 5 minutes away from my house. And the way that it's just because of my personality. The chairperson of this, it's a Tenants and Residents Association that deals with health and issues and complaints. And I'm only the chairperson in name. Well, I'm the chairperson, but I do other jobs as well, not in name. Like there's a name secretary and a name treasurer. But I do all of them because I just want to get them done. I don't do them alone, but basically what happens is I've got a committee meeting and it finishes about 9 o'clock. And then I know I want to do the minutes of the meeting right away, and I want to do the actions right away and do it all before I go home. And sometimes I don't get home till about midnight.
Mhm.
But I don't look upon that as a problem. I look upon that as it's a great way of working because you're getting things done. You're getting certain things in motion. And the reason I'm raising this because by the time I go home, it's back at midnight, which is past bedtime. It's so-called normal perceptions. And I don't go straight to bed when I come home. Obviously, have a bit of time myself, and sometimes I might even continue the work that I was doing. I might even do it at home if there's something that, like social media stuff or whatever.
Finishing it, getting it completed. Yeah. Because it's much more difficult to pick it up the following day.
Yeah.
It increases the work.
And I wouldn't sleep because I would be worrying about it because I know it would need to get done.
Is that worrying about it, or is it still being in it to complete it? What I'm saying is it worrying about it, or is it just having it on your mind so it's always in the back there as something to do, and that makes it difficult, uncompleted?
Just uncompleted. It's not little worries in terms of it's causing me,
but
problems. But it's an irritant in the mind.
Exactly.
You feel lazy.
Yeah.
Because you could have finished it and you didn't.
You see, we're using big words here, aren't we? We're using lazy and anxiety, and we've been taught to see these things as negative in that way, haven't we? Conditioning, so social conditioning. Whereas it's actually a discomfort. If we had a different piece of language to go with it, it's something about being in the thread and it not being completed, and you're going to be thinking about it anyway, so you might as well do it.
Exactly.
But we also then use words like worry about it, or get anxious about it, or can't leave it. So they're all described as negatives.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
In a lot of ways, we've internalized a lot of language and a lot of concepts that are negative to us, and we should sort of let go of them, especially as adults.
Absolutely.
I do find a real negative when it involves mental effort and the thought process, particularly writing something. It's a burden when the challenge of completing it is mostly still ahead, and it feels progressively easier the more that's just tipped to that is done and less is still ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm completely in agreement with you, and I have that experience of myself. Sometimes it truly is a worry, or sometimes it truly is an anxiety, but the majority of the time it isn't. And that all of these occasions, well, in my experience, it's almost as though if we could reframe what we're doing, we would feel a little bit more comfortable about it ourselves.
Yeah, it's a second check whether our feelings are proportionate to that.
And whether they fit the words that are going through our head when we're thinking about it. We might be criticizing ourselves, thinking, and we don't need to. What you said about arriving home and then still needing to do other things to wind down, a kind of, after you leave the motorway, you need to readjust your speed and take time to slow down before you can even think about sleep, is very part of my experience.
Yeah.
I think that is about autism.
Yeah, it must be somewhere. I mean, it's a weird discussion because we're talking about the negative language, and then we're talking about the habits, or not habit, but characteristics that we have, and the things that we do, and why we do them. And then we're putting it across as like it's not right, it's not the normal way, even though there's no such thing as normal. But it's against the grain of so-called society norms.
Or the social situation you're in, like it gets in the way of a family. If it's a teenager never going to sleep, and then you can't get them out in the morning, it doesn't fit the situation, does it?
Well, of course. I mean, I'm talking from a single person's perspective. Obviously, it's different if someone in a family, especially for a young child or a teenager, or there's someone sharing. You're sharing a home with someone, either a relationship or whatever. The person suits. I was just kind of wondering if it was just me that did this, or this is actually an autistic thing. That's why I raised it, rather than putting it across as a problem.
I think it's common. I think people talk about sleep a lot to do with autism, and mostly it's in the context about parents concerned that their children won't sleep. My wife, who's autistic, reminds me that she would always be awake when her parents went. She would go to sleep as a child at a sensible hour, but she would be there just thinking, not even reading, just in her own head for a long time before she slept. Nowadays, as an adult, it's not so much as a thing.
I do recall doing that myself. Because a lot of the time, there was times in my teenage years where there was bullying and all that, and there was that sense of dread of going to school the next day, sort of thing.
Yeah. But that's anxiety and stress. That's the real deal, isn't it? Yeah, that's the real deal. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was other times where I was relaxed, but I was just sitting thinking. And it's just, you feel sort of relaxed, relaxed now, I know it, but unable to actually settle. That's so I can identify with that in a way.
I see those times now as a positive experience in my life when I'm just sitting and thinking. And nowadays, I between midnight and 2:00, I'm very likely to be doing something very routine on a computer, like a piece of editing or learning a piece of code, or just sitting and thinking like I did when I was a child. And there wouldn't be space in my normal everyday world necessarily to be able to do that. And that's maybe why sacrificing a good sleep routine and hygiene is the contract I make,
I can identify with that. It's weird because I think that there's been times where I feel sleepy, should I go to bed, and I'm beginning to feel that, see, like 11 o'clock at night or midnight or even 1 o'clock in the morning, it's like it's too early because my routine. There's the odd time where I did go to bed early, for the likes of like if I go somewhere the next day early morning, or Oxfam where I tried my best to adjust myself to go to bed as early as possible, but mostly I just looked upon that it's too early to settle down. There's so many other things opportunities to do something, even if it's something leisurely, like it doesn't have to be work. It's just that's the mindset I've got myself in because I've been doing it for like 20 years.
A second part of the day in the cool of the night.
Yeah,
I definitely see that as something I've made as a choice. My wife is likely to, if we've been reading or playing a game or watching a piece of television or something, and then it's likely to be somewhere between 10:30 and 11:30, and she's likely to say, right, that's enough of today. She's going off, and I will hear her sleeping within 20 minutes. She'll be asleep. And then I've got a couple of hours, and I will have a second wind. I'll have been relaxing with her. We'll have eaten our meal, and and now that's a sort of second time to not be brightly awake, but to be in a kind of, my brain's working without it being all over the place. It's tired enough to be able to hang on to one thread at a time rather than be thinking about 20 things at one time. It's like the right mood time, if you know what I mean, that late night bit. And it's often very efficient for me because it's less distractions, less need to do other things, less need to think I must go to get some vegetables or whatever. It's a safe, complete space before, and that obviously means if I go to bed then at 2:00 and then it takes me maybe half an hour to sleep from then on, I've moved the whole day really, which is not supposed to be healthy, but I do like it.
They say a lot of things aren't supposedly healthy, but it gives a sense of happiness or comfort, so you do it anyway.
Well, there's positives and negatives, isn't it? If it's giving you happiness and being happy and being in comfort is a positive and healthy thing to be doing,
Well, certainly, I would think so.
I sometimes have to accept that that night's sleep's not going to be ideal. I mean, I nearly said adequate, but I don't mean to say that the rest of the day is actually non-functional because of it. So quite inadequate. But that I have to catch it up. It'll certainly become an adequacy issue if that goes on a couple of days running. So I just have to project my plan ahead as living around tiredness the next evening and the fuller night the next night, or the next day when I'm not having anything to get up for. Will be a lie-in catching up morning.
Exactly. Okay. I think that's a very wise thing that you're saying there. It's that it's almost, you tell yourself, look, okay, it's not going to be ideal tonight. I'm not sleeping well, but it'll average out. Just be up, go with it. Don't purposely stay up. Don't, start learning to tango, but do something relatively calming, relatively stimming, relatively routine, like reading or doing your favorite puzzle or game, and eventually you will sleep, even if you know it's not ideal, as you say. And knowing that in the future it will average out is a way of taking some of the stress off that.
Yeah, I can identify with that, absolutely, because that's the way I think. If a week's coming up where there's maybe a couple of days in a row where it's kind of early starts for me, which I'm not used to, then you're looking at later in the week and you're going like, well, later in the week there's going to be a long lie time. So you'll recuperate or it'll average out, or that's what kind of helps you go over the line. Yes, particularly when I was. It feels like picking on Ops Arm. It's not. It's because it's the only thing I've done in recent times where it was all day, which I chose to do.
And it's an early start. What you're saying is it's exactly the same as a working environment where you have to be up, you have to be out, you have to get there, and you're there for a long time.
Yeah. But I like what Morris to say, because that's what I have done. I continue to do. Because all my weeks, especially now, they're all different now. And there's some days where I do get up early, for like meetings that I go to. But a lot of these meetings, thankfully, are on Zoom, including the Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Which is very handy because it's like there's no stress about having to go anywhere. It's just about getting up. Or even you can even take a nap after the meeting. Oh, is it 11 o'clock? Oh, I need to go. I'm busy. Wait for a snooze.
I think napping is a good idea.
Yeah.
I always thought it was an aging thing. This is a new challenge to me. It's autistic.
Aware of it. I think most people. I think. They've done all the scientific tests on people, and they've found that people across all the age groups, their cognition goes for a period of time during the afternoons. I think some educationalists said that there's really no point trying to teach at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because the kids have already had enough.
But I mean, in terms of actually feeling physically restful and
restful enough to sleep. Yeah. It is possible to introduce things like power naps into, everyone has their own different way around it. As soon as we take the stress out of it and then find some what they call sleep hygiene around it, it improves your experience of sleep straight away. Most of it's about the stress of not conforming to what we think we should conform to, I think, across everyone, not just autistic people.
That's very true. It's like worrying about to be seemingly what you look as, or how you'd be, how would your character would be looked upon as, like being lazy or being eccentric or odd or whatever.
Yeah.
Or non-compliant.
Especially in the work environment.
Well, yes. Exactly. Because the way the routines can go. But yeah.
Yeah, even at home. I mean, even when you're talking about, do I need this amount of sleep? We need about 7 hours sleep when you're a fully grown adult out of adolescence. 7.5, 8 hours sleep. It's less than people expect. And people are surprised that they probably get most of them. Though, it varies from person to person. I've stopped worrying about it so much, and I think I get more sleep because of it.
Well, certainly stop worrying it as much as it used to as well. I'm just kind of interested in the characteristics of it. And a sleeping bits, a sleeping nap, kind of, rather than only tend to sleep properly as if I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't mean exhausted as in, oh, it's like a downer. It's just like exhausted, and it's like it feels like reward time. It's like, you know, let's recharge the batteries.
There is something about the autistic condition that we're often in situations where we don't have as much control over our lives. So it's difficult for us to learn the skills to take control over our lives. And sleep is one of those things where if people don't have the autonomy to be able to make decisions for themselves, they won't ever learn to do it. And I have a concern that sometimes it's from outside. It's from a parent, or it's from a carer, or that is not allowing us to do things our own way enough to be able to get good at doing things our own way.
Yeah.
Do you know?
It's like living the experience and then adapting to what you're most comfortable with and how you feel most healthy too. Because your body tells you.
You do need to be in tune with your body and start to listen to it. Yeah, I agree with that. But the psychology of it often is you're trying to conform to a social situation. It's something that runs through a lot of things to do with autism. There's often we should need to be a little bit more trusted with experimenting with our own needs, and maybe encouraged to experiment with our own needs rather than being dependent on the patterns that are asked of us from outside. And I think sleep is one of those things. If parents stopped worrying about their child not getting enough sleep, the child might get more sleep. My parents were quite relaxed, but they were both autistic. If I was up really late at night, maybe repetitively watching a black and white television program that was late into the night, which is the equivalent to the modern people being on their iPads, I suppose, or reading a book. I was encouraged to, if you can't sleep, just read a book. And the mental agility of reading a book and the calmness of being there or being in that thing would perhaps take you away and allow you to do it. I think 20 minutes reading a book is better than tossing and turning, just worrying why you're not asleep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and if reading can work for adults, it can work for kids.
Yeah. Obviously, you do get the problem that it's the encyclopedia, so they want to finish it. And you can't finish the internet.
No. You know, it's weird the things that you want to look at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
You know, it's like, it's 4 o'clock. I maybe should get, have a wee bit of sleep now. And then for some reason, I'm going to see what the definition is of a mirror.
Yes.
You know, of time. The time one's brilliant because it goes on forever. It's timed us. The subject matter. So it's like the curiosity, the curious mind as well.
I think
the net can provide
yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
When the curious mind is also the heavily drowsy mind that is to produce sleepiness, then the tip you over.
I think it matters what you're doing. I think you're correct. And I think this problem that we have now is that instead of reading a book or instead of reading just one page on a device, we are flitting from one thing to another, and that keeps our brain active. And the hormones that are going through our brain are the kind of hormones that are there to keep us awake because we need activity. Whereas if we move into something that is much more routine and soporific, well, soporific means to go to sleep, something that is less challenging in novelty, but more comforting in routine, like reading or doing a repetitive thing on a device, with the device set for the non-blue light, with the modern, they have done plenty of studies to find that the electronic devices are the things that are least appropriate.
Light.
Well, partly because of the light, but partly because of the, if you're on websites, you're continually getting irritating little flashes of adverts or websites that work in different ways. You're constantly being stimulated with a new environment when you go from website to website, whereas a book is just words on a page or a specific website that you go to. I listen to podcasts. I can't, I need my eyes closed. So having my eyes open, looking at interesting things on the internet, I think it matters what you're doing. I think you're correct. And I think this problem that we have now is that instead of reading a book or instead of reading just one page on a device, we are flitting from one thing to another, and that keeps our brain active. And the hormones that are going through our brain are the kind of hormones that are there to keep us awake because we need activity. Whereas if we move into something that is much more routine and soporific, well, soporific means to go to sleep, something that is less challenging in novelty, but more comforting in routine, like reading or doing a repetitive thing on a device, with the device set for the non-blue light, with the modern, they have done plenty of studies to find that the electronic devices are the things that are least appropriate.
Because of the light?
Well, partly because of the light, but partly because of the, if you're on websites, you're continually getting irritating little flashes of adverts or websites that work in different ways. You're constantly being stimulated with a new environment when you go from website to website, whereas a book is just words on a page or a specific website that you go to. I listen to podcasts. I can't, I need my eyes closed. So having my eyes open, looking at interesting things on the internet.
It's an interesting thing to be aware of. If someone, sleeps well, you listen to their breathing. That's actually interesting because it's all about breathing.
People also put on familiar sounds that they just get used to, that they associate with sleep, like whale noises and goodness knows what other stuff. It's a similar thing to me in a podcast, really. Or a piece of music that isn't jazz and all over the place, that's routine, or just listening to one of those internet radio stations that plays. And there are lots of podcasts that have specifically themed musics to them available that are aimed, and they're.
Well, it's been an interesting discussion.
It has.
Let's see, it's coming towards 7:30, so we call it a day.
I'm expecting you to wrap it up.
Could say something about that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for everyone for listening this evening. It was a good discussion on sleep and autism. Thanks everyone for listening and taking part, I should say. This is Spectrum Voices Conversation. It's on at 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. UK time and 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States. So thanks everyone for listening and taking part, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Good night.